A Night of Veronica by Winston North. Man, it was a long day, Veronica thought to herself when she pulled the front door to her house closed behind her. She was exhausted from all the mandatory overtime at the plant. She dropped her bags at the door, kicked off her shoes, and made her way to the couch. As she flopped down, she started to recall the one highlight of her day. A tall, good-looking man she met on her way out of work. She could tell he was different. The smoothness in his voice had immediately put her at ease, a feeling that was foreign to someone who was used to being in control and on guard. The conversation had been brief but enlightening. It covered a wide range of topics, from cars to what they liked to read. He even shared that he had started writing some books. Handsome, well-spoken, and oddly, Veronica felt herself drawn to him. They exchanged their numbers, emails, and then went their separate ways. Do I call him? Nah, too soon, she told herself. Still sitting on the couch with her head laid back, Veronica noticed something was off. It was quiet, too quiet. The long day of exhaustion immediately turned into excitement at her realization. No one was home, and she had the whole house all to herself for once. Veronica smiled and decided to do something she had been wanting to do for a while. Soak in the tub. She floated through the house, putting scented wax in their burners, lighting candles, and started her music to playing. The house had the smell of lavender and honey wafting from room to room. In the bathroom, steam rose from the tub, coating the mirror in a soft haze. She could hear her music in the background. The smell of the oils from the bath bombs she added to the water gave her the feeling of being in a field of flowers after a soft summer rain. This all added to the ambiance. The mood was set. Taking in the soothing aromas once more, Veronica felt the endorphins starting to release as she began to undress. She was unaware of just how beautiful she was. Even in plain scrubs, her figure carried an ease that drew the eye. The fabric hinted at gentle curves, the fullness of her hips tapering into a lean waist, balanced by the natural rise of her chest. It wasn't exaggerated but harmonious, the kind of shape that spoke of quiet strength wrapped in softness. Her lips, full and dangerous, seemed made to tempt, the kind that could undo a man with just a kiss. Her skin was smooth and dark, like polished mahogany catching the light, warm enough to draw you in, but rich enough to hold you there. When she undid her bra, her nipples tightened in anticipation of the steaming bath waiting for her. Sliding her thumbs beneath the delicate straps of her lace thong, she relished the brush of fabric against her skin as she eased them down her thighs, bending to let them fall at her feet. Free of the day's weight, she stretched tall, fingers laced above her head, arching her back until her breasts lifted with her breath and the last of her tension melted away. Just as Veronica was settling into the warmth of the water with her eyes closed, her phone buzzed. Irritated at first, because she had only just begun to relax, she glanced at the screen. An email. From him. The irritation she had just felt vanished in an instant. Her finger hovered over the glass of the screen. It's just an email, she told herself. Just words, but with him, even words felt dangerous. She could almost hear his voice already. Low, deliberate, threaded with that quiet authority that unsettled her more than she cared to admit. She should wait. She knew she should. And yet, the truth pressed against her chest. Undeniable, she wanted to see what he'd written. All the subject line said was, "For your eyes only." Thinking back, it was almost absurd, the way he had approached her earlier, speaking as though they'd been old friends. He was tall, about 6'1", maybe 6'3", his complexion rich, catching the light like polished onyx in midnight, his hair cropped close in a perfect fade, clean-shaven, and his smile the kind that could undo a woman if she wasn't careful, a smile she'd already fought not to return, and his clothes. understated, yet expensive in that subtle way only wealth can manage. To anyone else, he might have looked ordinary, but she knew better. A man like that didn't belong in this plant. He didn't belong in any plant. There was a polish to him that made every movement feel intentional. Every word spoken was deliberate, precise, like they had been chosen just for her. And even as she told herself not to get pulled in, Veronica found she already was, listening, leaning closer, betraying more than she wanted to him. For once, it felt good to talk to someone who actually used their brain. Attached to the email was a PDF. His message was short, almost casual. "Here's a little part of the book I'm writing. Please give me your honest opinion. I hope you like it. Warning, it's kinda spicy." Her lips curved, a soft huff escaping. "Spicy, huh?" The word lingered, teasing her. How spicy could it really be? Still, her pulse betrayed her, quickening in spite of herself. She shook her head, but the truth was obvious. There was no way she wasn't opening it. Not now. Not with him, she thought to herself with a slight smile on her lips. Using the fragrance of scented oils in the wax warmers, bath bombs, and the warmth of the water, Veronica closed her eyes again. Usually Veronica would imagine herself doing things or being places that she could ever go or that would ever happen in her normal life. But this time she pictured herself in the scene of his story, instead of imagining one of her own. Black Louboutins struck the marble in measured rhythm, each step carrying a confidence that needed no permission. The gown traced the length of her legs, flowing upward to the soft curve of her hips and the fullness of a figure that wore its shape with quiet authority. Her waist, defined yet natural beneath the fabric, lent the silhouette an effortless elegance, grace not forced, but inherent. Platinum hoops caught the lobby's light as she glided past, and the white and black Dolce & Gabbana purse rested in her hand as though it always belonged there. Her hair spilled in dark waves down her back, bouncing in time with her stride. By the time she reached the counter, the impression was complete. A woman of sophistication and presence, alluring in form, and undeniable in command as Veronica walked to the counter. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Moore. Here's the key to the penthouse suite," the concierge greeted smoothly. "You may also use it to access the private elevator directly to the suite." Confused at first at the concierge already knowing who she was, Veronica returned a nervous smile. Before she could get to the elevators, the concierge stepped from behind the desk to stop her. "One more thing, Miss Moore. A note was left for you with very clear instructions that you are to read it before you go up." Confusion and irritation flickered across her face. Still, seeing he wouldn't move until she did, she opened the envelope. "Hello, Ms. Moore. I have a few instructions for you. When you get into the penthouse, you will see 2 doors. One is labeled Obey and the other is labeled Rebel. Choose whichever you wish, though I recommend starting with Obey. You may find Rebel to be intense. Once inside, remove your clothes and hang them neatly in the closet. Pull your hair back into a ponytail. Then wait for me in the middle of the bedroom, wearing only your bra, panties, and heels, and Miss Moore. Thank you in advance, and I'll see you soon. L." Veronica let out a small laugh under her breath, shaking her head at the audacity. She started to step past the concierge, but he stopped her once again. "Now what?" she snapped, irritation rising. "Mr. L said you would laugh or snicker, and if you did, give you this note," the concierge said evenly. With that, he returned to the desk, leaving her standing with the second note in hand. "He thinks he's so smart," Veronica mumbled under her breath to herself as she opened the note while walking to the elevator. "First, I am that smart," he wrote with a wink emoji at the end. "Second, there are benefits to following directions, but there are consequences for not also. Which will it be, Mrs. Moore? Will you be a good girl and follow direction, or will you be the rebel and not?" is all that was written in the note. I see he likes to play. Good girl. Rebel consequences. He definitely does not know who I am, Veronica thought to herself. Okay, I'll play, she said with a hint of laughter and challenge in her voice. Rebel. He hasn't seen anyone rebel yet, but he will today. The elevator doors slid open to reveal the penthouse, and the sight stole her breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering Chicago skyline, a view so rare it seemed reserved for another world. Yet the windows were only the beginning. Every detail, the furniture, the rugs, the art, whispered the same message. This was a place for those who never needed to ask the price. Despite its opulence, the suite was far from cold. Warm tones, soft textures, and careful lighting beckoned her deeper inside, inviting her to shed the weight of the day and dissolve into comfort. It wasn't just luxury. It was designed to make you stay, to forget, to surrender. Walking through the suite, Veronica noticed the 2 doors mentioned in the note, one labeled with a white ribbon that read Obey, and the other labeled with a red ribbon that read Rebel. These must be the bedrooms in question, she thought to herself. Veronica walked over to the door with the red ribbon, but it was locked. It was the same with the door that had the white ribbon. What the? The elevator chimed before she could finish that statement, and the concierge stepped into view. Let me guess, Veronica muttered, her irritation rising. Another note. Yes, ma'am, he said simply, offering it before stepping back to give her privacy. Miss Moore, by now you've discovered the doors are locked. No peeking. You must choose first. Red for Rebel, white for Obey. Only one key will be given, and only for the door you name. Consider carefully. I'll see you soon. L. Veronica exhaled. Half laugh, half groan. The rules. Always the rules. Irritating, yes, but somehow the very precision of them thrilled her. She had never experienced anything like this man. She had not been in a situation where she had not had at least some control, if not all control, in a very long time. So which room, naughty or nice? She said under her breath, like there was really a choice. She turned to the concierge with a smile tugging at her lips. The red key, please. After collecting the key from the concierge, she moved toward the door marked with a red ribbon. The silk shimmered like a warning, the word rebel hidden in its grain until she drew close enough to read it. The kind of detail you might miss unless you were meant to see it. Taking a deep breath to try to prepare herself for whatever could be on the other side of this door, Veronica unlocked the door and opened it slowly. Greeting her was a dimly lit room with the left wall having a dresser running the length of it. The right wall had things on hooks that she could not quite make out due to the dim lighting. Centering the back wall was a large 4-poster bed with the posts running all the way to the high ceiling. The bed was spectacular with what appeared to be hand-carved snakes wrapping around them. The lighting in the room was dim, with the brightest spot in the room being a circle inlaid in the hardwood floor in the middle of the room. This circle, highlighted by a spotlight, and in the middle of the circle was another envelope. Veronica stepped into the pool of light. The envelope waited at the center, as if the world itself had been holding its breath for her to arrive. She picked it up, the paper cold against her fingertips, certain this was the last note, the one that would decide if her world would change. Veronica opened the note, reading it with trembling fingers. Trembling from apprehension, a little fear, but most of all, excitement. That kind of nervous excitement that one gets riding a new roller coaster for the first time, hearing the click of the chain as you are transported hundreds of feet in the air, then that pause before everything falls away. Miss Moore, I see that you are a woman that does not back down from a challenge. Good, I like that quality in a woman. However, I hope you are ready for what you have chosen. The things you are about to experience will be like nothing that you have ever dreamed. It is my honor to have the privilege to take you higher, to heights so intoxicating you will never want to come back down. Moreover, Miss Moore, I'm looking forward to seeing the beauty that is you, and knowing from that moment you will never want to belong anywhere else. Her mind sparked with imagination. Standing just outside the lighted circle, Veronica took one more look around the whole room, taking in all that she could see. Why did I come here? She asked herself. Her nerves started kicking in. The butterflies were in full flutter in her stomach. This is what she wanted. Some adventure, something new and exciting, something outside her norm and very different from things in her regular life. Living a fantasy is why she was here. Exhaling a deep breath, resigned to go through with her decision, Veronica placed the note down on the dresser nearest the closet and began removing her clothes. Frozen beneath the spotlight with the bed to her back, she did not want to be surprised when he walked in, trying to cling to some control. Veronica did not just feel exposed, she felt hunted. Every fear, every flaw, every fragile part of her lit up like prey with nowhere to hide. It was not just the absence of clothing, it was the way the light seemed to peel back the many layers of armor she had forged and reach straight into her soul, dragging out every one of her insecurities into the open, on display for the world. Normally an ultra-confident black woman, Veronica felt at that moment as though she was the weakest woman she had ever seen. Lost in her contemplation, she did not even hear the door open. All of a sudden, the lights in the rest of the room dimmed even more as the light above her head that illuminated the circle brightened. "My, how beautiful you are, Miss Moore," a voice said from somewhere in front of her. She could not see who it was, but that voice was unmistakable. It washed over her like a warm blanket in the winter after playing in the snow for hours. She could smell him approaching. He smelled of a forest just after a rainfall, so fresh and masculine. She could not hear him walking, though. All she could hear was the commanding timbre of his voice and the intoxicating scent that clung to him. "I've been waiting all day for this moment, Ms. Moore." Damn. When did he get behind me? Veronica's breath caught the moment she heard his whisper at her ear. "Close your eyes for me, Veronica," he whispered to her. He didn't touch her, but she could feel him all the same, the weight of his presence, the warmth of his breath brushing her neck. Her skin erupted in goosebumps, every nerve alive, every inch of her body betraying her, softening, surrendering, yet coiled tight in anticipation. This is insane, she thought, shivering under a voice that seemed to reach straight through her. "Mama." Startled from her daydream by her daughter yelling, realizing that the bathwater was now ice cold, Veronica took a deep sigh. And here we go. Damn, just when I think I get some needed me time and then boom, back to reality. Veronica opened her eyes. "What do you want? I'm in the tub."
Thank you for taking the time to listen to my tale. Please subscribe to the channel for updates to this and other stories as they post to the channel. Remember to like the video so more people get a chance to enjoy these tales. This is Winston North, and I bid you good day and farewell. Till the next time.